On the worksheet that you had on reflections, you were asked to sketch the graph of y equals the square root of x.
Yeah.
And it looked like that. And then you were asked to graph y equals
Negative square root of x.
yeah, negative square root of x. And it looks like that. The graph of y equals negative f of x is congruent to the graph of y equals f of x by... Did you put something in there? A reflection in the x-axis. That's what you said? A reflection in the x-axis. It's a vertical reflection. It's reflecting vertically across the x-axis. So we call that a reflection in the x-axis. It's changing the y values of the graph. So invariant points, what does that word invariant mean? It doesn't change, right. So we're looking for points that don't change from the original to the reflection. And where would those points be? For this particular graph, it's x equals 0. Is it always x equals 0?
No.
Yeah? So it's actually invariant points occur when y equals 0, or you could say on the x-axis. I'll just put them both down. On the x-axis or when y equals 0. What does the mapping rule look like for that one? X, y maps to... Do the x values change? No, x values stay the same. Do the y values change? How do they change? They become negative, right. They become the opposite of what they were. So x and negative y is the mapping rule for this vertical reflection in the x-axis. Then you had this one where you had, again, to graph y equals the square root of x. And then y equals the square root of negative x. So the difference is, in the first one, the negative was outside of the square root sign, so it was affecting the entire function. This one is just affecting the x value, not the entire function. So the graph still stays congruent when it's f of negative x, but it's a reflection again in the y-axis. Yeah. So this is a horizontal reflection. It reflects from right to left or left to right. It's a reflection in the y-axis. That y-axis is the line of reflection, the line that it flips over. So where would the invariant points be for this type? When x equals 0 or on the excuse me, y-axis. On the y-axis, or you could say when x equals 0. And for the mapping rule, x, y maps to, anybody have it? Negative x and y. X values change signs. So if they're positive, they flip to negative. If they're negative, they go to positive. But the y values stay the same. And you can see that in your table of values that you made. This question, I think, was on your worksheet as well. Given the function f of x below, sketch the graph of y equals negative f of x. So what type of reflection is this? Reflection in the x-axis or reflection in the y-axis? If it's negative f of x. Reflection in the x-axis, right. And so that means that the mapping rule, x, y maps to x and negative y. So for all of the points on here, so if we look at this point, that's at -5 and 2, right there. Where's that one going to transform to? Right now it's at -5 and 2. It's going to be at -5 and, because x stays the same, and -2. So right there is where it changes to. This one is at -3 and 0. Where does it go? Stays the same. It's right on the right on the x-axis. This one is at 0, 3. It'll go to 0, -3. Then we have this one that's at 3, -3. It goes to 3, +3. And this last one, 5, -2, goes to 5, +2. So if I join those together, oops, there's the reflection in the x-axis. You flip it across the x-axis. This is the same graph for f of x, but now it's asking you to sketch the graph of f of -x. So that's going to be a reflection in the y-axis. So these points now the mapping rule is going to be x, y maps to -x and y. So it's the x values that that change, not the y values. So this point, oops, I made an arrow. Okay, this point is at -5, +2. Where is it going to transform to? 5 and 2. So it was at -5, 2. It's going to go to 5 and 2. So it's over here. Then we have another point at -3, 0. Where does that one go? 3, 0. Yep. We have this one at 0, 3. Where does it go? Stays. That's the invariant point. This one just has one invariant point. It's on the y-axis. Then I have 3, -3. That's going to go to -3 and 3. And I have 5, -2. I just did something wrong, did I? Let's get rid of that. I should have been at -3, -3. And then the next one is going to be at -5 and -2. So the graph looks like that. That's the reflection in the y-axis.